Well, good morning, everybody, and grace and peace to you from our Lord Jesus Christ and all the saints here in Central California. And if you're watching this video on the day that it comes out, then I shall say, He is risen. So if you're not Christian, and I don't know if they do it in other countries, but we do it here in America, every Easter, the pastor at church will say, He is risen. And the entire congregation will respond with, He is risen indeed. And this has been said for thousands of years. So, He is risen. He is risen indeed. I was actually going to do an airborne update, but it's the cloud deck is kind of low, and the weather's looking a little unsettled today. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to stay here on the ground. So what I thought I would do is just talk about this week a little bit. I didn't get to make a video during the week because it was a little bit busy with a couple of different things. So the news on the work front is we have hired a replacement for a beautiful network admin boss. He's not beautiful, but he's a nice guy. So his name is Arnell, and he will be joining us. Well, he has joined us. He's working remotely at the moment because he's waiting for his badge access and all that so he can actually park his truck and get in the door or his car. But we've been meeting. I've given him a couple little tours of the data center and the MDF, and kind of given him a high level 30,000 foot view of the network. And one thing I really like about Arnell is he specializes in firewalls. Yes, because firewalls are one of my weakest areas. I know this firewall pretty good, but there's just a lot to keep track of, and it's got a lot of functionality, and just keeping track of all that and the network, it can get a little confusing. So it'll be nice to have some help with that. So a lot of time was spent just showing him where things are, getting his accounts created, all that good stuff. And then the other parts of the week was dominated by printer problems and time clock setup. So printer problems, I don't know. The help desk is just moving a ton of printers right now. I don't know why, but and I don't know how many times I have to tell them that when you move a printer, you got to let me know because we got to assign it a new IP address, because all of our subnets are the boundaries. Remember boundaries? The boundaries are by closet, not by department. I didn't set it up that way. I inherited that, and I'm not inclined to change it. So if they move it from just within the same department, no big deal. But if they move it from one side of the building to the other, that's a different network closet. We got to give it a new IP address. Why can't we just use DHCP? Well, in some cases we do, and then we just reserve it. But our medical records provider prints to a lot of those printers, and to do that it has to be static. It can't change ever because they set it up in their system. So especially for things like wristband printers, you go into the hospital, they put the little wristband around you, so we have those. We also have label printers for like drug tests. You print out the patient's name and you put it on the little sample bottle or whatever. So we have those kind of printers, and those are the ones that our medical records provider prints to primarily. And then there's some reporting printers and stuff too. But for some reason, there was a couple of label printers that were in our admitting department, and he would put it on. I couldn't ping it. What the heck? So I took my laptop over there. I could ping that, but then the other weird thing was I couldn't ping the gateway. I couldn't ping the core routers on that network. That concerned me. So I went over there. Still couldn't ping those things from that subnet. But again, I could ping my laptop from any subnet that was plugged into that. But there's something weird going on here. I checked for IP address conflicts, couldn't find any. I told him, well, maybe there's something wrong with that printer. Why don't you get another printer? Let's configure it, plug it in. I couldn't ping that one either. So I tried two different things. I set my laptop to DHCP, and I set my laptop to have that IP address of that printer. Took the printer off the network, put my laptop on, when it was on DHCP, I could ping it. When I set it to the static IP address of that printer, I could ping it. Not sure what was going on there. So what I told him to do, is, okay, let's put this one, there's another VLAN we could use there. So I said, let's put this one in that other VLAN and see what happens. So he puts the printer in that VLAN, boom, no problem. Not sure what's going on there. So we did that for all the printers over there. And then there was a couple other printers that got moved that I told them, yeah, can't do that. We've got to change the IP address of the printer. So there's a couple others like that were moved, to different floors of a building. So just lots of little things like that all week long. And then the time clocks. So the way the time clocks were going to work is they're just set for DHCP. You can't change that. So what I would go and do is just reserve the IP in DHCP once the time clock got one. That way they could always go and pull a specific time clock for, a specific department and, make things easier for them. But things being as they are, this time clock project has rolled on and on and on and on and drug out that it's been more than 30 days, which is what our default DHCP timeout was. So they were saying, well, we put the time clock on, but we can't ping it. So there's a command I can use to look at the port of a switch, and it's called node alias, show node alias port, whatever. It'll show me the IP address and the MAC address of the device that's connected to that port. And I look at it, and it's got a different IP address now. I said, well, how long has it been since you've actually pinged this time clock? 6 months? Okay, well, yeah, it's going to change. So I reserved the IP addresses the time clocks got. There is one case where the VLAN wasn't on the switch, so I had to extend the VLAN to the switch to get that time clock to work, because it was one I didn't know about or forgot or something. Anyway, and there were a couple other little problems. And I also upped the timeout on that DHCP scope to like 180 days. So they shouldn't change. Once they get their IP address, that should be it. So that was pretty much it for work. New boss, printer problems, time clock problems. So the fun stuff, figured, well, let's do some techie stuff too, kinda. So went and bought a new truck. Well, 3 months ago, bought it. It's basically so I could, the trailer, I have a travel trailer. We go camping in it. And my old truck is is a half-ton truck, and it was having problems pulling that trailer up some of the hills. And plus, we're going to buy a bigger trailer after I retire in many years from now. And I just want to buy one truck to tow them all, one truck to find them and in the darkness bind them. So I want to buy one truck and not have to upgrade again later. So I bought the biggest, baddest truck I could possibly afford. And so I did some things to it. I did a thing. I'm also a ham radio operator. So I have a ham radio base station in this thing. Let's step in the truck, shall we? Oh, up we go. I have to climb up into this thing. Close it here. All right, so there's the cockpit. And I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it? See that? Yeah. That's my ham radio. It's just kind of hanging there it's not bolted in permanently. And what I do is I just talk to people on the way home. And to get it to start up, what I was doing before is this cigarette lighter adapter I was having to stretch out and plug in up here. So that's how I would turn it on. I would plug it in, and it'd turn it off, and I would unplug it. This lighter is always on, or that plug, it's always hot. So sometimes I would forget and leave the radio running all night long. Now there's two 12-volt batteries up front under the hood, so that's not a big deal, but I just didn't want to do that. So what I did was install this little 12-volt adapter in, and then I can just leave it plugged in there. But again, to turn the radio on and off, I would have to pull it out and unpull it out. So what I've done is we have these 6 auxiliary switches that that came with the truck. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with these switches? And yeah, I know, you're not happy. Oops, don't want any copyright regulations. Come on. There we go. So what I did was I hooked up this switch here, auxiliary 6. So I can turn the radio off by pressing that. Turn the radio back on by pressing it. And what's really cool about these auxiliary switches, you can configure them a bunch of different ways in the truck. So the way, let me turn this off so it won't keep beeping. Oops. So what I did is to configure this one to be, remember what the last state was, and it's a toggle. So you push it once, it gives you 12 volts. Push it again, it turns 12 volts off. And then it's configurable here in the truck's computer as to whether it'll remember what state it was in when you turn the truck off, or just defaults to being off every time, or defaults to being on every time. And the other thing you can configure these switches to do, the first auxiliary 1 and 2 are already configured that way, but when you turn those on, they've always got power. See how the light's on? Hope you can see how the light's on. Yeah, there it is. They've always got 12 volt power. Where the others, if the truck is off, they don't. And my radios, if the truck is off, I don't want them to be on at all. So now wiring that up was kind of interesting. Number one, this 12 volt adapter wasn't there. So I had to pull this console out, drill a hole, and then install that lighter adapter. And just in case you're curious, because I was, to take this thing out, the center console, see if we can see it. There, the square panel there, there's one in the front, there's one in the back. You can get to them with the seat. Well, you can see you can get to that one. You move the seat all the way forward, you can get to the rear one, so you don't have to take the seats out. And then this kind of funky looking panel right here, that just pulls out, and there's 2 more bolts up there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this whole center console just slides right back. And there was absolutely nothing up there behind it. So ran the little 12 volt wires out here. They come out on the side here. You can't see. They go under that carpet. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you where these things plug in. It's crazy. Yeah, if you can see that one white connector right there, way there we go, right there, this white one right there, had to plug that one in. And then there's another one I can't even show you because it's just way back there. So that multicolored wires going diagonally, that's what plugs into those harnesses. And those are the things that feed those auxiliary switches. So like I said, I got those tucked in under the carpet that go over there. And then the other thing we had to do, how about we check out some engine porn, shall we? Let's see if I can even do this. I mean, look how tall this truck is. Well, that's how short I am. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see where they are? Okay, yeah. This is one of the connectors, and this is the other connector. Those both, I don't know how well they're showing up, but hopefully you get the idea. Those both run to those wire bundles I just showed you. So to get auxiliary switch 6 to work, I had to jumper these 2 pins. Why? Because one of those pins comes from auxiliary switch 6, and one of those pins is just a pass-through that goes right back into under the dashboard. So switch 6 comes out here, wraps around, goes right under the dashboard, and then brings power to the other end of that cable. So, because when you press 6, it puts 12 volts right here on this pin. And yeah, so I got one auxiliary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on these different cables. And man, I don't even know if you can see these, but they're there. Yeah, I'm doing a terrible job at this, but hopefully you get the idea. Yeah, and then we got these other wires that I'm going to use later on. See with the yellow tape, these wires go to the back of the truck. So at some point, I'm going to wire these up to one of these auxiliary switches over here. And I'm going to put a light bar in the back of the truck to help me with hooking up the trailer. And another one of the auxiliary switches, I'm going to put a light bar or LED light strip right on top of right underneath the hood there. So that when the hood's open, I can press that button and it'll just flood the engine with light. And there's the engine for you guys that want to see it. It is a Cummins turbo diesel. Well, here, sorry about the hand. Hopefully you can see that. It's like 470 horsepower or something like that. There, Cummins turbo diesel. So anyway, that's the new truck. And that was the project this weekend, is just wiring that up. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I'll show you just real quick. So that switch remembers its last state. So it was off the last time I turned the truck on. So I'm going to turn the truck on again. You can see it's still off. Turned it on. Where's the radio? There's the radio. Radio is on.
Spring Valley and Hunt to net control.
So there's somebody talking on the radio.
Net control, go ahead.
If I turn the truck off, radio turns off, which is what I want. Turn the truck back on. Radio comes back on. But if I turn it off, turn the truck off. Sorry for my lousy photography. Turn the truck back on. Stays off. So that's what's really cool, is you can configure that thing through these settings. See if I can do it here. See if I can show you this. Can you guys see that? I'll assume you can. So they have these commercial settings, and you can set up the auxiliary switches. So like here's auxiliary switch. You can tell it what the last state was, the power source, the type. Type is like a momentary push button or on off. Here, let me do it in one of these other switches. Let's do aux 5. So last state, that's the memory. Tell it whether it's on or, do you want it to remember or not? Power source, do you want it to be ignition? That's what I have aux 6 set up as, or the battery. That means it'll be always on. What type is it? Latching, that's what I have, so that turns it on. Or momentary contact. And yeah, that's basically all your settings for the switches. So yeah, pretty cool truck. I'm really enjoying it. And well, that's really all I have for this week. I guess show off my wiring skills, and I really couldn't show you because I didn't even take any pictures when I had this thing out. I should have, because I might have wanted to do a blog entry on it or something, but I was on a mission. I was doing this yesterday and it was windy and cold. I mean, you can see the weather. The wind was blowing really hard, so I was just trying hard to get it done. But worked out real good. So enjoying turning the radio on and off without having to pull the 12 volt DC adapter. So although I could have just got an AC adapter for it, I guess, because this truck does have 115 volts AC in it here somewhere. I think it's up there on the passenger side, but I don't want to use all that power just to run a 12 volt radio. So yeah, it's got a AC power adapter up here, AC power adapter there at the back of the bed of the truck, and I got a blender that'll run, so we can make margaritas on the road, I guess, or my wife's breakfast smoothies usually. So anyway, like I said, that's all I got this week, guys. Again, happy Resurrection Day. And if you like what you saw, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, thumbs up, thumbs down. And we'll see you guys all next week, hopefully with some more technical content. As always, God bless and keep those prayer requests coming.